Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets Podcast Pioneer, with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio here at the annual, I think it's every couple of years, the Institute Summit 2025. Thank you so much to Cecil and Kent Bullard and the entire team from the Institute. We are theinstitute.com. Honored to be here. We were at the last one, had a blast. This is Blast Squared. We're having so much fun here. Town Hall Academy. Thanks to our sponsors. You know, for over 30 years, NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the best, most comprehensive SMS in the industry. Find NAPA Trax on the web at napatracs.com. And hey, you ready to optimize training with today's class? We'll roll out a training plan for your automotive shop in just 5 minutes daily. Boost knowledge, retention, and improve team performance. Start seeing results today. Join your peers at todaysclass.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Hey, welcome back. Okay, sometimes there's some behind-the-scenes stories that you have to tell. And Carm, why are you sitting so close to Aaron Woods? One of our cameras kind of decided to die, so I asked Aaron if he could just chum up a little bit, and he said yes. So this is one of the most uncomfortable places or positions I've been in my entire podcasting career.
For you. It's very comfortable for me.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to talk to Morgan about that. Oh, my. We're already starting to have fun. And this episode is going to be about fun. Also, Jennifer Hulbert is here from Service Plus Automotive in Calcium, New York, not far from Buffalo, maybe about, 4 hours?
Yeah. Other side of the lake.
Yeah, at the end of Lake Ontario. We're on the edge of Erie. Been on the show 3 times with us. Aaron 8, Extra Mile Auto Care, Stillwater, Oklahoma. Now, why both of you are here is you guys are leading the gear performance groups here at the Institute.
We are.
How do you run a shop and coach and facilitate? I find it fascinating how many shop owners are getting involved. I mean, I talked to Parker this morning. He's got like 8 clients. I love it. There's nothing like an individual who's been there and done that to help guide people down this pathway in life of improvement and coaching and leadership and all that stuff. And just to set the record clear, and I think we've done a podcast on this before, I was so honored, Tracy and I, to be invited to one of your peer reviews in Buffalo when you had your whole team there. We watched you facilitate. We saw a different side of Aaron Woods than we ever knew before. And it was positive. Those shop owners rallied around you. And of course, you went and scoured my friend Tom Ciartino's shop. And he worked almost like a year to get it ready. Nothing like pressure, right?
He did a great job.
Yeah, he did a great job. And he learned a lot. And he's improved his business in so many ways. So how do you get in front of these groups and facilitate them and have a little Jen or Aaron push? How do you do that? Is it your personalities to do this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I was part of an actual group for 18 years, and my facilitator always joked that I was trying to take his job. So this has been an inherent part of my personality from probably the day that I was born. And
I couldn't tell that about you.
no.
Could you?
Oh, yeah.
He knows a different side of her.
Well, and these members are there looking for assistance, and that is our job. And if we're not going to push them, then they're not going to improve. And that's what we're there to do. That's what the group is there to do. At the beginning of the GPG Day kickoff, I talked about the entire group process just wrapping their arms around members. And we've had members I've lost all of my employees, and it was the owner and a wife. And we had 2 additional shops who drove to their location, put on their technician hat, and got work produced for that individual shop just so they could stay in business until they were able to hire technicians.
There's all kinds of stories about that out there.
Oh, it's remarkable, really, what the group process is. And we were just having this conversation with a shop owner at lunch today, and they said, well, I really like working, and they were talking about they were working with Cecil as like a one-on-one coach. And they said, well, I have this fear about coming into the group because I really like working with Cecil. And I said, well, with all due respect to Cecil and everything that he brings to the table, we all know that. But really, if the group process is doing what the group process does, the coach isn't, not that I'm trying to take away from what Jennifer and I do bring to the table, but what I'm here to say is that the coach is not the focal point of the process. The process works and changes lives because of the group members that are sitting there in that room.
It's about them, not about you.
It's about them. And so that's the power of what comes out of that room. Going back to what Jennifer spoke about in the beginning of the GPG day, when we both got up and addressed the group, and Jennifer had, talked about that. And I stood up and I said immediately right out of the gate, I said, there's two types of people in this world. There's the people that learn from others. And then there's the people that touch the stove because they had to find out for themselves. Unfortunately, those type of people where I have burnt hands. But back to what I'm saying here is you have a room full of people that have been through those experiences, have lived those, the ups and the downs and the roller coasters, and are able to help each other and guide each other through those experiences. And that's been really powerful to see.
Thank you for that. This is a pretty heavy question. When you see a transformation in the business, what do you see in the person who helps make that happen? The shop owner.
The shop owner that makes the transformation in their own business.
The business is moving and there's a lot going on, but what do you see in the person? Do you see a transformation in them? Do you see a new and better, stronger leader? Do you see attraction? There's got to be. It starts with the person, the man in the mirror, the ego, all that stuff. And I think it's important to know when people are considering coaching or grouping or networking that you're going to change as a person.
Well, absolutely. And that's what we're here to do. If you're not growing in your business is retracting and shrinking. So how can the managers or the owners make those improvements and then they have a different role in their business? All of us, most of us, started in an actual day-to-day role. I was a service advisor. Aaron was a technician. Most of the shop owners are in one of those day-to-day roles. And as they take that step out, they can see the growth potential because they may not be holding back their business. And I said this, I think, on my first podcast with you, is I was holding my business back. And until I took that transformation and had that epiphany of there are people who can do these individual roles better than I can. And putting those people in those seats allows the business to grow. And that was something that Dr. Jessica Kriegel talked about today. That kind of goes back to culture. If you have the people who are working in the same direction, your profitability is going to be extremely higher than just some growth because of a labor rate increase and
Absolutely.
A parts margin change.
Oh, I agree. And to add to that point, Wednesday, when we did our breakout, GPG training, one of the things I talked about was just that. I mean, there's intentional growth and there's organic growth. Organic growth is, we're going to increase our labor rate. Parts prices aren't getting any cheaper. And so, a 5%, 10% growth to me is not really doing anything different rather than just natural environmental factors. But to add to what Jennifer is saying, it's the lid. It's the story of the fleas in the pickle jar that, jump up and hit the bottom of the lid. And eventually they quit jumping and then you take the lid off. And it's like we as shop owners, and I say we, myself, Jennifer, all of us included, we tend to put that lid on it, on our beliefs, going back to, Jennifer or Dr. Jessica Kriegel and her talking about the belief system. Where we believe in our business should be is where we put the lid. And it's like we have to remove that lid and let our people run with it. We have to train them well. We have to build the systems around them. But then it's amazing to see what they can do when we get out of the way.
And we're building leaders then and not managers or employees.
Followers.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. That was one thing actually that stuck out to me. I think was it Dan Clark that said that. He said a leader's job is to build other leaders. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a great point, right?
There's an awful lot about micromanaging in the last couple of days' discussions with people. And I think we micromanage because we don't know what else to do. I think we love to turn a wrench, sweep a floor, and all the thousands of other things that we like to do and not lead. I mean, listen, for 10 years we've been doing this. This is not a redundant episode, but it's an episode that kind of shares the same themes or storylines that we've been talking about for years. And so why would I want all of this repeatable life's lessons to happen again? Because I believe I haven't gotten to everybody who needs to hear this, okay? And if you're a top 20 producer, listen to this. Continue to affirm and confirm that you're doing the right thing. And if you're not and you want to get there, then listen to this, write some stuff down, listen to it 3 or 4 times, listen to the wisdom that's coming from the real life's experiences out here. And that's kind of what I want to know. There's a level of accountability. Here's the law of the lid. I love the law of the lid. You didn't finish the story. The fleas, you take the lid off, the flea's not going to come out because we've taught them this is only as high as you can jump. But what I want to know is with these groups, how does accountability happen? And what I mean by that is what I was so impressed by to be in your group was they seem to hold each other accountable. And you talk about the height of networking and the height of, I don't know this guy, but I've just been assigned to be his partner. I guess my job is to hold him accountable because he's going to hold me. Mm-hmm. Wow. What a cool way. It's a tug of war, maybe, but the positivity's in the middle.
Well, I think Jimmy said this perfectly. Or I think it came from Jimmy during the summit was, we're all in the same storm. We may not be on the same ship, and our ships may not be the same size, but we're all in the same storm. And I think the power of the accountability factor that you speak to is the age-old saying, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. And maybe the ships aren't the same size, but we're all in this together. We're all here in the same industry, and we're all battling a lot of the same, day-to-day issues, whether it be technology, staffing, and these things. And so as that room grows and as the discussions happen, I know that if I help Jennifer raise her tide, that in turn comes back to help me because it lifts the group up, right? And you see that, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
I'd love for you to get your input as well. You facilitate several of the groups, so you see that as well?
We have these like-minded people in the same room. And Michael Smith uses the word or the phrase all the time that we're not going to do business with jerks. So we're not going to have someone who is going to self-sabotage themselves in the group, that they're not going to last. Because the other members are going to say, we are here to improve all of us, and we're all going to rise together.
That's right.
So we're in the 1%. The people in our groups are in the 1% of the business. That's been one of the trademarks of the Institute for a very long time. So we're like-minded people, and we want to improve everyone's business and everyone's lives. Again, going back to the theme of the Institute, better life, better business, better industry. So if you're not going to push your members and hold them accountable, we're not going to rise together.
That's right.
And sometimes in the beginning that accountability is forced. We've had difficult conversations with our group members, and they see the potential. They see others making the improvements in their business and how they've risen up and say, okay, finally, I'm going to commit to this. Yeah. And I'm going to make the improvements, and I'm going to listen to my other group members because I'm getting the same information.
This is a behind the scenes on what grouping and networking and coaching is all about.
Oh, and it is. And I'll add to this. I think Jennifer and I share a great dynamic in this, in the sense of not only are we the ones leading these groups, but we come from the group process.
Yes.
And not only are Jennifer and I collaborating at this sense now of, co-facilitating this program, but we were composite partners, which is the accountability partners in the group process. And so we came from that.
Oh, you know more about her than anybody. I see.
I won't go into specifics, but there were several times where her and I would push each other on our meetings in the group process. And,
still to this day.
And I heard Jennifer mention this the other night, and it's something that her and I have been very vocal about back and forth. It's mirror people. Mm-hmm. And I think it was something that came out of the first summit.
Yes,
Is
Kevin Brown.
Who are your mirror people? You know, the people that when you look at the mirror and you say, this is where I am today because of people that have influenced me throughout my life. You know, who are those people? Jennifer and I have been very vocal about each one of us being one of those people. But to the broader point here, because we're talking about the group process, the people in that room that do hold each other accountable and do be there for them in the good times and the bad times of the business, a lot of times it's more than just running a shop. It's those people become the mirror people.
Yeah.
That's the true bond in that room is you've earned the right to be able to be that person for that person when they needed you.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Kevin Brown.
The hero effect.
The hero effect. We got the book at the summit. Oh my God! I think was it a signed copy? I consumed that
I
book.
still talk about that to this day. Yes.
Tracy, you read it.
I did read that.
Yes, Tracy read it, and we were moved by it. I believe it's on the books page on our website, remarkableresults.biz. It's a must read. He's got to be one of the top. I mean,
Oh, I loved it.
from the minute he started to talk to the end,
You were
he had
captured.
me.
Yes.
He had me. The hero effect. Kevin Brown.
Well,
Kevin Brown.
and to go back just to expand a little bit on mirror people, there are group members who become your chosen family. And again, I was in a group for 18 years.
Your chosen family. That is big.
I have chosen family members, and we support each other in all aspects of our life, not just the business side, but the personal side. And I have people that I can make a phone call tomorrow or this minute and say, hey, I'm really struggling this with whatever it is in my life, and they're going to be there. We got you. We're going to be there to support you. And that's really what I want the group process to be, or we want the group process to be, because we do share that same thought, is how can this group become more than just a board of advisors or a board of directors for your business? How can it support your entire life? We have many group members and all across all of our groups who vacation together. So again, it becomes chosen family. And that to me is the pinnacle or the ultimate part about being part of a group.
You know, that makes so much sense that if you're out there looking for a networking group to become part of, to your point, it's got to be more than a board of directors. It ultimately has to be family. But here's my big think. Does everyone make it?
No.
You know my saying there, Jennifer.
Yeah, the easy answer is no.
And what's the hard answer?
Aaron sang.
The ship wasn't built to save everybody, Carm.
No, Noah's Ark wasn't made to save everyone.
It's inevitable when you come in, and not even just when you come in, throughout your tenure of the process. It's not always easy. It's not always going to be easy. We're not always going to hear from other people the things that we want to hear. And I think that ultimately that catalyst has to be there inside of you to want to change. I grew up, in a farmhouse, and we had a circle driveway around the house. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I was young, and my dad bought a Burro, which is a cross between a donkey and a horse.
Yeah.
And it was for my little cousins to be able to come over the holidays and
Ride the Burro.
Right. Because they didn't want to ride the horse. We had horses, but they were too big. And so we bought this Burro. And I remember watching my dad trying to get this Burro to walk with a lead, right? For 2 weeks, he's dragging this Burro around the driveway. I mean, the hooves are shoved into the ground. I mean, it was amazing to see. It probably wasn't, but I thought it was funny.
Carrots.
Yes, that's where I'm going with this.
Oh, no kidding.
So he went inside after about 2 weeks, and he came outside with a bag of carrots. And so he stood in front of the Burro, and he pulled a carrot out, and then the Burro would walk up and get the carrot. And then he continued to do that. And within a couple of days, the Burro's walking right around the driveway, right?
Looking for a carrot.
I never knew until just recently, how did I learn so much from that moment? It's people will only do what really they want to do. We can't make group members come into this process and want to change or want to improve or fix this, or we just can't. And I think that's the thing is sometimes we do get group members that come in and they say, well, my business is failing. What can you do for me? Mm-hmm. And
that's a whoops.
If somebody says I can't do anything for you, right? You have to do those things for yourself. The information the knowledge, the gathering, the facilitation. We can pour the glass full of Kool-Aid and sit it in front of you, but I can't make you drink, right?
And that for me was probably the biggest challenge of changing from group member to facilitator. I'll never forget the biggest thing I took out of Leadership Intensive with Michael Smith is you put your hand up and you start to push. What does the other person do? They push back equally or harder. So how can we turn that push into a carrot, and how can we make or help them realize that they have it within themselves to make these improvements themselves?
Take that step forward.
Hey, let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NAPA Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing Trax to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, we'll be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NAPA Trax, that's NAPATRACS.com. Transform your team with today's class, where automotive training is easy, quick, and fun. Just 5 minutes a day on our app can eliminate hours of looking up forgotten information later. It's perfect for technicians, advisors, and managers alike. Keep critical knowledge fresh and top of mind, ensuring your team operates at peak efficiency. Today's class is impactful, accessible from anywhere, and a bit of fun too, and we're not talking about after-hours pizza either. For training that gets results, turn to todaysclass.com. So I want to join your group, and I say, so what can you do for me? Would the next question say, why? Why do you say that?
My next question would be is, what can you do for yourself? What are you willing to do?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
Because going back to my story with the burro, right? It's like, well, my dad got the carrot out, but the burro still had to take the step to eat it.
Yeah.
So it's not, if somebody says, well, what can you do for me? It's, no, what can you do for yourself?
Yeah. You want direction, you want guidance. If they don't have the motive, obviously there's zero motivation if they say, what can you do for me?
Maybe not zero motivation. Maybe they don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
So think of typical shop owners. You're a technician. You're there to solve a problem. You're there to work with your hands. You're there to do step by step a job to get an outcome. Mm-hmm. For shop ownership, there are outcomes that you can't control. Customer interactions. You can control them to a point, but it's not like fixing a car. And sometimes that thought process for that member needs to come out like, I need to look at this differently. I need to grow as a person. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer a technician. I am a business owner, and I need to see things differently.
So I want to take the leap, and I want to join a coaching group like this. And what characteristics, I get what you're trying to say, that there's nothing you can do for them except maybe bring the bag of carrots and let them walk to it and ultimately eat. But let's talk to the shop owners right now that are struggling and they need help. If you want to get into a networking group coaching thing, what kind of priorities do you need to set for yourself to make that phone call, to get on that website, to do some discovery of how to get yourself to the next level in your life and in your business?
Aaron's story of how he became a group member is the perfect example. So I think your story is one that we should share.
I was young in my shop ownership. I started my shop from ground zero. I had nothing, not even really many tools. And I remember as I first got started, I didn't know, just like Jennifer said, I don't know what I don't know. And I remember just being extremely defeated when I worked so hard. And I mean, 7 days a week, 18-hour days. And at the end of the month, I got a negative profit and loss statement from my accountant. And I'm sitting here and I'm trying to look at this negative profit and loss statement, income statement, whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking at all the hours that I just worked, and I'm like, how does this make sense? Like, I've always grew up, and I think a lot of us are this way. You grow up and you say, well, if you work hard, you get the things that you need to have, right? Or want to have, whatever you describe it. And here I am, 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. And at the end of the month, it's like, I gave somebody else money. But the problem is that I didn't know why. I'm like, well, I know I can see this bottom number at the bottom of this sheet, but I don't know why. And so my next step was, and I was mad. I was really mad, actually. This was a couple of weeks before Vision. And I remember going to Vision a long time ago when I was a rep for a sales company. And I was there as a vendor. And I'm like, I think there's this conference that I need to go to learn, right? And it happened to be Vision. So I drove up there and I took my manager with me, or he's now my manager. He wasn't at the time, but I took, somebody that worked with me up there, and we attended some classes. And I remember it was on Sunday, I was stewing over this negative P&L the entire time. And that was really what I wanted to learn, is like, okay, how do I fix this? Because I don't know what I don't know. And at the end of the conference on Sunday, I'm in this big room. There's a coach in there. I sat at the front of the room, and I knew the entire time, I'm like, I am going to touch the stove today. And so I sat at the front of the room, and when that coach said, would anybody be willing to volunteer to sit up here on this stage and have us look at your numbers? And I didn't even raise my hand. I just stood up and started walking to the stage. And I'll never forget this. He pulled a chair up and he set it on the stage, and he had a projector.
Here, son, sit here.
Oh, yeah. And I sit there and I pulled up my shop management system, and I had it on my phone. And so he was writing these numbers down. He was asking me, and I didn't even know what numbers he was asking me. He's like, oh, yeah, this. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm giving him these numbers. I have no idea where he's going with it. And he's writing these things down on this projector screen, and it's on this big screen in front of the room. And he's asking me all these numbers. And at the end of it, he's like, all right, group, what do we think? And there's like 500 shop owners in this room. And I'm sitting up on this stage.
Exposed.
Oh, I got ran through the grater.
Oh, you were.
But the thing is I knew I was going to. And that's the thing, is like,
that was your moment.
That was my moment, right? I'm like, yeah, I know that if this burns enough, that it's going to ignite me to go back and make the change. And so I did, and it did. I was so mad at myself. I'm a very prideful person, right? And I said, never again will I ever be here. And it was a 4.5 hour drive back from Kansas City. And Tyler sat in the passenger. You can ask him himself, Tyler Nichols, Extra Mile Auto Care, sat right there in the passenger seat of my Honda. And I did not say one word leaving that conference center all the way back until about 15 miles from Stillwater. And he looked at me and he goes, what is wrong? And I lost it. Blew up. Not at him, just blew up. And I said,
but you've been planning that diatribe for 4 hours.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, in your mind.
And I said, I have failed you. I have failed this company. And I said, I'm sure there was more choice words there, but at the sense of it is, never again will I be here. Never again will I ever be here. Now, I'm not saying that as the roller coaster of our business that we don't ever have a bad month, but never will I ever look at that number and not know why.
I wrote down the word exposed while I'm listening to him, because I always take people's words and I'm saying, how can I really bring this inside of me? I also think about my listener. And I know what you just heard about Aaron in his story, but you cannot be afraid to do an Aaron story, to be exposed. And you were exposed in front of 500 people. You find a coach, you're being exposed to one person who's willing to get on board to help you. And then if you get into a group, maybe it's 20 people. But at the end of the day, if you're not glowing and growing and doing all this stuff, then you've chosen poorly. They have not given you the right direction, and you need to move on, which is why people sometimes shift around until they find the right love fest, the right family, the right connections. But if you're not willing to expose that I don't know what I don't know, all the missteps that you've had in your life, if you're not willing to be humble, that's what happened to you. But you didn't think about it. The beauty of his story is it was an intervention. I bet you if I was in the room, I would have seen a lightning bolt come down, pick you up, and guide you to that stage.
You could have probably scrambled an egg on my face.
And we have people, maybe not to that extent, but they'll go to a class that NAPA put on in their local BDG or, another class in their market, and they hear something and they're like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And then they'll watch one of your podcasts and
Bingo.
they'll say, I don't know anything about this, but Carm just gave me an idea of where I can find the information. And that's usually the first step.
I've been in a room where there's been a coach presenting, over Zoom, or a management video came up, and guy does anybody have any questions?
Nobody raises
raises their hands. I look over at Tracy and I do one of these. I want to go to everybody's shoulders. I want to shake them because their potential, it's like, even though maybe it was just a mini, performance KPI, just one subject. Mm-hmm. No one had any questions. Everyone in the room's an expert on that topic. The answer is no, but no one wanted to have an Aaron experience.
I say that. I mean, I don't recommend that. Well, I do if that's what you need.
I'll bet you their P&Ls look just like yours.
It was not a fun experience, but at the same time, you go back to your original question, Carmen. You said, what do those people need to do? And I think that for me, it's kind of like goal setting, right? It's, okay, so I have this place that I want to be, but that's not where I am, right? And maybe I don't know what that place is that I want to be, but I know where I am. And it's like, well, if all I ever focus on is that one day I'm going to have all of these other things, then what we're missing is the path, right? And it's like, okay, well, what can that shop owner that's struggling do today? You can make a phone call. You can reach out. You can do just a small action today that gets you on a path to then having a different result. I mean, this was 2019 when I went to Vision in Kansas City.
Wow.
And granted, I never would have said, well, in 6 years from now, Aaron, you're going to be a facilitator. No, I wouldn't have known that, right? But it's like, I didn't just go from Vision to facilitating. What did I do? I did one thing. I reached out to, the Institute, or I pulled up a podcast. And that's the thing, is like, you're so inundated in your business and you're like, well, I can't just do this, 20 group thing. It's like, but you can make a phone call.
Yeah.
And don't be intimidated by the process. So we have so many new group members who come in and say, what can I possibly give to this process right now? I've not been involved, and there are so many things that I'm not confident about, but yet they contribute to the conversation. They contribute to the meeting overall. They contribute to helping someone in a dinner conversation. So I guess if there's one thing that we could tell your listeners is, don't be intimidated by coming and joining a coaching group or a group in general, because you have knowledge, you have experiences.
Be a sponge.
Yes.
And maybe that is the role, right? Maybe that's the role. I agree, Jennifer.
Talk about an accelerated, I am worthless on the bottom of the ocean to a group facilitator.
I'm very upfront with my clients. It's just because Jennifer and I are facilitators doesn't mean we don't struggle with things in our own shops as well.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's so important.
It is. It really is. I mean, I'm a technician short at my shop right now. I mean,
you're learning from the group too.
Yes.
And wait a minute,
Absolutely.
you got to go back and put your money where your mouth is.
But here's
right?
the thing. You're right. And that's powerful. It's like, because we sit at the front of the room, it's like, oh, well, Aaron and Jennifer have the answers. That may not be the case. Like, I always tell people, I learn more than I teach. Mm-hmm. And we should, right? And that's the thing. It's your end goal is never a destination. It's always a journey. It's always a journey, right?
But it's also who you surround yourself with. So if you surround yourself with those people who are going to help make those improvements or give those ideas, then that is why we are all here.
Let's go down a different path. How does homework get done? Because I know that everyone who leaves their group sessions has homework. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does it get done?
Most of the time, but it goes back to the same ideology of, are you working in your business or are you working on your business? So if you go back to your shop and you jump right into a service advisor role, your homework, so to speak, or your ownership duties are going to take a second seat to that. So do you have the proper people in place to be able to step out of the day-to-day role and say, I am going to make a commitment and I am going to get XYZ done because I am looking for a goal or I'm looking for a different result of what I'm doing right now.
Aaron, I want to get a coach and facilitator. And once we get over the hurdle that I can come in, the next question that I ask you is, okay, Aaron, thanks for having me. Should I start working on sales costs or margin? Where do I start?
I think margin is where I think the easiest thing that we can deploy in our business, right? And that's when I begin working with a client. And of course, the first thing I do when I look at a financial statement is I'll scan right to the bottom and give me a percentage of sales, right? And if that net profit isn't where it needs to be, the second place I'm going to go every time is to the margins, to the gross profits. Gross profits are the easiest and quickest way that we can fix. I don't want to say fix
legitimate
the business.
Fixes, real, live, honest to God. Oh, the coach is justifying their fee because I just raised my labor rate. And we hear a lot of that junk out there. In many cases, it's way untrue because that's where a big fix happens, to your point.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, is there a time to increase a door rate? Yes, but I look at it in a little bit of a different perspective in the sense of a door rate is really just a figurative thing. It's the effective labor rate is really what's important. It's how many dollars on average are you taking to the bank for every billed hour, and that's your effective. And so it's really, where does our effective labor rate need to be? And that effective labor rate calculation is really just looking at what are your expenses, what do your margins need to be, so then what does our effective labor rate? And the point I'm making here is the setting of the effective labor rate. Now, granted, the door rate might need to be moved to move the needle on effective, but that's just one of the 4 or 5 different ways to move effective labor rate. That's what it's truly about. And that's oftentimes, if we do arrive at the conclusion that the door rate needs to be increased, it's not just to increase a door rate. It's because we've gone through and we've looked at the calculations. We know where it needs to be because of other information. Then we make that decision. It's never, Jennifer, you might speak as well, but I don't think I've ever looked at a P&L and been like, well, it's a door rate issue. Or
No, and more of what type of production is coming out of the shop. So you can set your margins to be whatever you want them to be. If you're not turning out the work or attracting the customers to be able to turn out the work, then what are we doing? And I use the analogy almost every meeting, and I did on Wednesday. If you had a 300-gallon bulk oil drum, would you turn the spigot on and watch the oil go down the drain? No. No shop owner would do that, but that is what we do with our labor inventory every single day because we're not managing it.
I kind of knew the answer to this because although margins may be a quick fix, there are all the key issues of sales margin and cost management are just things you got to pay attention to. Period. Done. Case closed.
Are so many. I mean, again, you have your labor. Do you have the right marketing to attract the right customer? Do you have the right service advisor skills to be able to turn that DVI into an average repair order? I mean, there's so many other factors besides let's look at your parts matrix or your labor rate.
Jennifer's hitting the nail on the head. I love the analogy of the 55-gallon drum of oil. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's so many factors to pay attention to. And I also understand as a younger shop owner, a struggling shop owner, that's a lot to try and find and fix. And it's like, well, how do I have time to do that? And I think the ultimate goal is work on one thing at a time, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the information is there. You have to buckle down and solve it.
I'm with Jennifer Hulbert from Service Plus Calcium, New York, also a facilitator here for the gear groups here at the Institute, and Aaron Woods from Extra Mile Auto Care in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Let's wrap this up. Give me one aha moment of your life as a facilitator. Any aha moment you'd love to share?
This is more rewarding than I ever thought possible.
Wow.
being able to watch the improvements of the group members and the entire group process. So one of the notable achievements that we accomplished this year was increasing the net profit of the entire group process by almost 1% in 12 months.
Collectively.
Collectively. Across the entire program.
Net operating income?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So sitting back and saying, wow, we had a part of that. And I say we, Aaron and I make a very fantastic team and we collaborate a lot with our different groups. But seeing that we are impacting 72 shop owners' lives with better profitability for them to be able to take that and make notable improvements in not only their business, but their employees' lives and their communities is much more satisfying than I ever thought possible.
You just said a big number, 72, and I think about herding cattle.
Or chasing cats.
Wow. Okay. Because if I was to your group, this guy is a disciplinarian strictness guy, in front of that group. I guess that's the only way. You've got to have that structure, right?
Structure.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a time to push and there's a time to pull. Right? There's a time to lead. There's a time to motivate. And, and that's something that we, continually learn, as our experience grows. But I love what Jennifer said, the 1% increase. And somebody might think, well, that's 1%, but we're talking about
millions
of dollars.
Millions.
And to take what she said and to build on that, it's when, just like the Institute, Better Business, Better Life, Better Industry, right? It's when we collectively, Jennifer and I, make that type of impact, right? You're creating a better business. And this is what I love about this. You're making a better business for not just the owner, but when the owner has a better business, then the owner has a better life and business for each one of his employees.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that each one of those employees has a family that is then impacted. And so when you look at the spider web effect of what that does, to me, it transcends auto repair, right? It's making an impact to society. Mm-hmm. And that to me is my biggest takeaway. I don't have one.
It's a good aha moment.
Different than that, because I used to build upon that.
You just, I think, nailed a great summary of why facilitating, why grouping, why networking, why coaching is so important. Yeah, we're doing this for you and your business, potentially to build wealth for all the things you want to do as a spouse of a family. But you just nailed the fact that the work family is just as important. Talk about retention, recruiting, and all. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some people that want more in life than we're currently giving them. They want more money. How do we get them that? How do we pay for their education? On and down the line. And for anyone who's listening, if your owner, your business owner, CEO, has decided to get into a coaching group, that's good for you too.
It is.
Absolutely. My employees live better lives because of the group process.
I would agree with that.
Aaron, Jennifer, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.